I'd like to call to order the meeting of the West Bend Community Memorial Board for Tuesday, May 20th. May we stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a approval for the consent agenda to approve the regular meeting library board minutes and the library expenditures.
I make a motion.
Karen, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on either the meeting? Pardon me? Katie? Oh, okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Now the fun part comes, the election of officers. I would like to ask if there are any nominations for board president. What if we don't get any? What happens? Who doesn't?
How about I nominate Deb?
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
I think I'm supposed to ask 3 times.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna suspend that because I have a feeling
The boss,
we
you can
aren't
do
gonna
that.
be making too many changes. If somebody really wants a position, just raise your hand.
We can ask 3 times at the end.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve Deb Bartnikowski as library board president. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we need a nominee for vice president. Our current vice president is Karen. She has agreed to stay on if no one else wants the position. So if someone would be so gracious as to nominate her.
I nominate Karen.
Thank you, Katie. Second, and you second?
Sure.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or otherwise we'll call for a vote for Karen Wackel to be the vice president of the West Bend Library Board. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next is secretary. Katie has graciously agreed to also stay on as secretary. So if someone would care to nominate her.
I'll nominate Katie.
Okay, you can nominate Jay and you can second.
I'll second.
Anyone else interested in the position? If not, we have a motion and a second for secretary for Katie. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasurer. Okay,
Speechless.
Katie, did you nominate Joseph?
I do nominate Joseph.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Barb? Anyone else interested in the position? If not, we have a motion and a second for treasurer for Joseph. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, well.
Another year.
If you want to get out of it, you're gonna have to do something controversial.
That's right. That's right.
We'll work on
Okey-dokey.
that.
We'll work on that. Financial reports. Joseph, our newly elected treasurer.
Yeah, so there is one check for a program that went out to Mischief and Magic. And then there was a soil sample that was paid for through that checking account as well. And then there was,
That probably was was that for the gardening thing?
Yep.
Yeah, I would have assumed that.
that was my guess, yeah.
Okay.
And then we had a deposit of $409 from the vending machine, and then there was 6 cents of interest.
The vending machine, is that the one for the quarter?
Yeah,
Wow,
so a lot of quarters.
you
I
bet.
believe it.
Yes.
Kids love doing that. And,
Yeah. There's a vending machine. You want to explain it?
well, it's a little globe kind of vending machine, there's usually a book recommendation, a riddle, and a piece of candy or some combination of things that are in the vending machine. Oh, and they can win a chance to be a librarian for a day, which
Okay.
is probably what motivates most of them. But they're always plugging that thing with quarters, trying to get that librarian of the day, I think. I don't think candy's all that important to them, but it does help.
Okay. Wow, good.
Yeah, and then the other account had $45 of interest,
Okay.
but that was it.
And then I had asked Joseph to hand out the library undesignated fund balances because between March and April, the city audit must have been concluded and the monies were transferred, the monies that were left over from last year in the two various accounts were moved into our fund balances. And I think it looks okay. I didn't have any questions. Do we, I don't remember. Are we supposed to approve that in reality? That the money was moved or is,
I think you only have to approve expenditures that use those funds.
okay, so we don't have to approve money, so anybody can put money in.
Yeah, you can always put more in.
Okay, all right. Are there any questions for Joseph? Or any questions on finances? If not, we will move on to the library director's report.
Well, we got some fun things. Maybe not so much fun. Since we last met, our our chiller, which cools the children's area or all the lower one level area spaces, the offices in back, the story room, went out. So there's 3 panels that they have to replace, I believe. The cost, we were given the cost to replace the whole unit. The 3 panels was the cheapest. What was the other thing?
And you said there was a chiller?
Chiller, yeah.
So what does that do?
Well, yeah,
Oh,
air
okay,
conditioning.
okay, I
So we had about a week of very uncomfortable days, and we probably will have more time of uncomfortable days. Things that were brought, well, first of all, I did approve the $20,000 repair for the panels. And then I asked where are we going to get the money from for this, and so far that's a question that's still out there that I have to talk to
Is
Carrie
that a
about.
capital improvement? I
Well, it
think
was
so,
not
because-
listed as a capital improvement. What we had on the capital improvement was,
No, I'm not asking what you had. I'm asking, is air conditioning considered a capital improvement? It should be a capital expense,
Well,
I
not
would
a
assume,
repair.
right?
But it's a repair, we're not
Repair,
updating
They're
it.
maintenance.
not replacing
Yeah.
it, so.
If we were replacing it, it would be,
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a
we're repairing it, so.
Okay,
so, and if it was a capital improvement, we'd have to put it in the capital improvement budget, which we do have the replacement of both units in the capital improvement budget, probably 6 years out from now, or something like that. I'm not exactly
4
sure.
years.
is
4
that the
years?
full HVAC system? 'Cause
Yeah.
I
Yes, but of this, we found out that the quote issued by one of our local vendors for replacement of what we call, it's called the train unit is what we call it. The local vendor quoted us a price of $130,000, and Train, who's looking at the unit right now, gave us the cost of replacement of $500,000. So there's something missing there. Either the local
was it?
vendor didn't realize that the capacity that that unit had was probably greater than what they anticipated. But it makes me question the capital improvement plan of a total of $1 million when one unit that was supposed to be $130,000 is now $500,000 for replacement today.
So Train is saying it's $500,000.
Yeah. The last part of this is the person that came out to work on this unit did tell me that he did all the panels at Mitchell International. And he said, once this is done, that unit should last quite a long time, so,
So this is the panels on our current air conditioning system.
yeah.
But when we do a new HVAC, we probably will be replacing all of that anyways, correct?
That would be an option at that point. I don't know, and Brett won't be on city council by the time this comes around, most likely, but I don't know how that CIP will progress and if that will come to fruition. The current plan for the CIP for the city of West Bend is $1 million in projects for the departments outside of streets. Am I not correct? I think that's what it is. So when you have so many departments that are drawing from that pool, if we put aside $50,000 a year for the next 6 years, we wouldn't be putting much of a dent in replacement of the HVAC as it stands. And I don't know how that will play out in the city of West Bend. I think the new administrator might have some ideas about that. City council might
I do have a
change something.
question, Brad. If the HVAC at the city hall went down, how would that be handled? If it totally wiped out, you know, and
I would believe that, and if it wasn't covered by any other
Right.
previous CIP planning, good question. I think it would be taken care of, and the city would find a way to shift funds around to make it happen. So,
and I'm not
'cause-
asking that the city
Yep.
would do that. We're trying to pre-plan.
Oh, but I think, wasn't that the discussion we had when
Yeah.
we were talking HVAC before the CIP? Because we were telling the administrator that, you know, there was a need to replace a system, and it got put in the CIP because we could do without replacing it right away, but
Yeah,
you can't function without it,
Right.
right?
200,000 for HVAC was placed in, I got the
Yep.
CIP
Yeah.
that you sent out was placed in for 2027. Okay, that was 200, and then I think it was the next year that the remaining portion of it or
I
something.
think I staged it over 3 years, because I don't know how we're actually gonna come up with the money, so I've been trying to break it out so that we're staging it out over several years. But we now know that the quote that we got, we need to probably
Bump up.
reconsider. Train will be on site on Thursday, I believe, and we will look at both units,
Air conditioning and heating?
all of our rooftop units anyway, and
Okay.
we won't, the boilers are the cheap part of the system, actually.
Yeah, and I thought I saw something, I saw something from you on, you sent me a documentation on the boiler.
So the boilers were in good condition. I heard that they can be rebuilt, so I don't know if that's a big expense, and I don't know if we need to replace them. I don't know how we want to manage CIP moving forward. The problem is, we now have a $20,000 bill coming for replacement of panels, plus the $2,000 for the service charge to have the guy come and look at it, I think it was. And we have our door opener, as you may have seen as it comes in, we're getting the door opener pneumatic thing refurbished.
That was the automatic, okay, door. Let's see,
Yeah.
the nurse-
Seals and,
Seal.
they're
Well,
gonna
it's part of it.
refurbish the whole thing, I think, whatever they can do. All these things are building maintenance items. And every year I've asked the administrator to add more to building maintenance. And in the past years, we've also had an air conditioner compressor and frequency drives. These are all very large expenses that keep coming to us as a library board. We don't have the money in our building maintenance fund for these things, because at the first quarter, we were already over 50% on our maintenance, building maintenance funds. So
Steve, can I ask, what is our yearly budgeted amount for building maintenance?
$40,000.
Yeah, I mean, you hit a frequency drive or a compressor, you're gonna blow through half of that pretty fast. I think the other thing when you guys talk about HVAC is this just the unit, or are they proposing all new controls in CIP? Are they including, there's a lot that can be thrown into that HVAC. It certainly can be done in parts, the plan, but you're right, I think those dollars might be a little higher than what was originally thought,
Yeah, and
depending upon that scope.
I don't think it's, I do know that sometimes people have difficulty working with the municipality, and just because we were quoted $130,000 doesn't mean we're gonna force the vendor to do it for $130,000. We're going to have to be realistic, because what they'll do is they'll find shortcuts then to put something in less than what we need. So we gotta make sure that we're being honest with them.
Now, the 130, we started out talking about the repair panels for the chiller.
Yeah.
What was the 130 for now?
Well, the 130 was the original, the quote that they got for the CIP project was the $130,000 to replace the train unit.
Oh, the train, okay.
Yeah. So we have two units, a train unit and a mammoth unit. Train can service both of them, and we're gonna have them look at both units when they're out here and let us know what their maintenance plan would be, or their projections would be for both units.
Okay, now the train unit, is that the air conditioning
They,
or,
the train unit we call the chiller, and all it does is the air conditioning or the chilling. The mammoth unit does circulation,
okay, that's,
also does some air conditioning. What else does it do, Brad, do you know? It's really
Right.
fancy, it probably transforms into a car or a robot.
I don't recall if it has something to do with, no, it doesn't have anything to do with the heating, does it? That's all the boilers.
I think it circulates the air.
Well, it circulates the air.
Yeah.
so it would do
Yeah.
that
So
for
it does
both
do
heating
some-
and
It has,
cooling.
it is a much larger unit too, much larger.
Okay, so we're talking about the
Is
train,
that mammoth unit just basically the air circulation, air handling unit, and then you have a separate compressor and a separate boiler then, I'm assuming is the setup there?
Well, that unit's like an all-in-one unit, so it has two compressors on it. Then it has, it circulates the air, so and then it has a chiller, I think it has some more air conditioning in it. Well, clearly it does, because it is cooling this two-story area, so it's handling everything for the 2 stories.
Okay.
And then the train is
So
just,
the nice thing about some of those units is you can start just with the compressors or the parts of it. That box, that larger air handling unit, shouldn't go as fast as the pumps, the motors and all that, but that to rebuild over a couple of years is gonna take a chunk of money.
and the concern for replacing the units was that the gas, that the refrigerant that our units use is no longer produced. So as long as we don't have a leak of refrigerant, it should be fine. And what would cause a leak would be bad seals potentially, or a leak that in the coils. I don't know what else would cause a leak, but those are the 2 things that would be most concerning. So if those things are fine, we should be okay for a long time yet. That's something they'll give us information about, but it's an expense, and every time we've asked for more money in our building maintenance fund, that's been denied. When we did talk about pushing this out for several more years, the city administrator at that time said we will find the money if there's more of these repairs that come up, we will figure it out. And there was no plan laid out, but that's how the city of West Bend has been operating from what I understand. I'm not sure that there's anybody that has a plan, so if the city hall's AC goes out, they'll have to figure out where the money's gonna come from. Now, there they have the general fund that they can pull from. They have some reserves in there probably that they can use. We don't have that being the library. But our building maintenance fund should be in anticipation of these events if we're going to have to foot the bill for this. Because we can't use fund, now, we can. We shouldn't use funds that were designated for improving services and collections to do building maintenance.
You mean like fund balances?
Right,
But in reality, fund balances are money that the taxpayer have given us, not just for just collections, they've given us that for everything. So the possibility may occur that we would be using some of our, some and maybe all, depending on how
yeah,
bad things go with the fund balances.
right.
The problem on that is if we run those down to nothing, we never will have anything to fall back on,
Right.
okay?
So the strategy is
Um,
try to maintain what we can, try to put things in the CIP at the appropriate time, and hopefully they get funded. So beyond the door and the AC, we did have another project that was completed, kind of goes along with our roofing project. We had the windows on the tower sealed, so that's completed now. We haven't gotten a bill for that yet. The other note of surprise, here's another bill for you, is when, long time ago, when we were in,
COVID?
no, the old library system,
With
Mifflin, and moved over to Monarch, there were some computer things that hadn't been taken care of, as far as putting our computers on a public network versus a staff network. So the Monarch library system did an audit on our computers and found that I'm not gonna get into the details of it. We need to move some things around because not everybody needs to know exactly what we need to do. But anyway, some computers that are on the public network should probably be on the staff network, and some computers that are on the staff network should be on the public network. I think a lot of that is relatively simple, but they're gonna come in and look at our switches, look at our hardware, make sure everything's good.
Who is they?
The Monarch library system.
Monarch is gonna do that, okay. Do
And
we have confidence in the Monarch? Cause at one point, we did have some issues with the Monarch hardware, or the Monarch technical people.
we are working things out. They've done the documentation, so we've got exactly what, and I feel confident that what they're proposing is
Okay,
good.
okay, if you're
Yeah.
comfortable, that's good. I know at one point we had some
Yeah.
issues. Brad, you ain't saying too much.
I'm good.
Okay,
With that though, because our computers are set up differently, they are 6 years old, is that right, Brad? The public
They
machines.
are, yes, 6 years old.
6 years old, we typically
all of them?
replace.
No, I thought we had them half and half, Brad. Or are all
Not
of
for
them?
the, not for public machines.
Yeah.
Oh, for the public machines, okay. Those are the
So,
ones on the second floor.
so Brad wanted to replace those last year at 5 years, and I said, let's try to go for 7. But with the changes that need to be made, I said we can replace computers, because it'd be better just to move everything over to the new system, have the new computers in place.
So what is the schedule for moving the stuff?
Well, I'm hoping it'll be done before fall,
Has to be done before fall.
Why?
because there's a special thing that happens in November, is it?
That's what I'm guessing right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it would have to be done before November, so we would probably shoot for like a September, but then.
Or sooner.
Yeah, or sooner.
As soon as possible, let's put it that way. The sooner we get it.
How
in, the
many
better.
public, computers do we have?
We currently have
16.
16.
What is the frequency of use of these computers?
We don't have anybody on the waiting list ever.
Okay, 16.
I have decided to reduce that to 9.
Okay.
We can always expand from there.
So we're looking at potentially getting 9 new public computers.
Yep.
What is the average cost of one of the computers, do we know?
We're looking right now at about $700.
700?
700. It's right now, I just got an email today, I was asking some information, and they said that Dell's going through, changing their pricing. So I gotta wait for that.
Okay. So that would be $6,300
Plus monitors probably,
plus,
monitors, because the monitors up there run on VGA.
so it's computers plus monitors.
Yeah, they run about anywhere from 150 to 160-ish per unit for a 24-inch.
60, so
If they still exist, I mean, they keep moving everything around,
yeah, stuff is changing.
so.
Do you think you could write up a proposal of what is coming once you get the things and have it presented to the board? Unless you have funding somewhere in your budget.
Well, we were going to buy gaming PCs, and that funding was going to be about $4,500.
It's 3 or 4, it will probably, that will cover about half of the house, give or take.
But the gaming PCs were set up or being purchased to bring in more people, and that was the intent
We
of
can do
that.
that next year. This is much more important.
Oh,
Because-
no, I'm
yeah.
not saying we wouldn't do this, I'm saying, would it be advantageous for us to do both? I know we'd have to look for funding, okay,
I think we can wait here.
for the gaming ones?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, does anyone else have any
That's all the
questions?
fun, crazy bill things that just came up.
So,
Steve and Brad, can I ask a question on the contract with Monarch?
Yeah,
So they provide basic support services, and then this is an hourly or per device? Like, I'm assuming there's an upcharge above and beyond the normal charge for doing all this network work? If I'm hearing you correctly in what you're saying, or is that included in our yearly quote bill?
that's included.
Okay.
good question. We cannot make a decision on this, because this is not on the agenda to go for a vote. But if we could get some information, costs and stuff like that. I don't know if you wanna wait until Monarch comes in and does their final analysis
They
upstairs.
could find other issues.
Right, so what my recommendation would be is that you put together a one-page document saying, this is what we're looking for, and then it would be up to the board to make a decision and to determine if the money, a portion of it could come from the gaming, and a portion could probably come from some of our, from the fund balances. We had $100,000 moved in from last year that wasn't spent, that was provided by taxpayers with the intent to keep things going. So that would be my recommendation. Does anyone else on the board have any other questions or issues? Tim?
No, I think I'll probably reach out to Steve with some other questions that are larger than this, just about the support he gets from Monarch, and some of those things to help him. But I mean, the reality is when I hear Brad speak about the prices, I just bought 100 desktops, replaced them here for some labs. The pricing is on. The fact that you're hearing there is price changes every day is not uncommon. I think the biggest piece is I'm assuming then you're good for your next Windows update, because if you have Windows 10, you have to be off of that this fall.
Yeah,
I mean, it just costs money to do it. The reality is it's the right time to do it.
yeah.
It is what it is. It just seems to be falling together with the broken door and the air conditioning, which is how the world seems to go sometimes.
Yep. Is there something you want to say?
APs. The APs are getting swapped out.
Oh, yeah. And our access points are being swapped out this year. So they'll be doing that at the same time. So our wireless will be updated as well.
They come down to white, so.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that answers that. Now we have to really go back and talk about the panels. We do not have again, to stay with the rules of Hoyle, for the dollar amount. At this point, they haven't done anything on the panels yet, but you've authorized it.
Yes.
Okay, so what needs to be done is we need to have a proposal put together as to the fact that this is an issue. It's not something that was covered in our current budget for the most part, so it's an additional expense, so we probably would need, again, we don't need a lot of analysis, but we
Right.
need to have it on the agenda so that the board can really talk about it and vote on it.
But last week was 90-some degrees, and don't we need to get this fixed before our next meeting?
He
or-
already
Well,
authorized
yeah, we're gonna,
it, so-
we're gonna go forward one way or the other, we just have to figure out how to move the money.
Okay,
Yeah.
But I do have to talk to Carrie about that before
okay.
we have
Okay.
to do anything.
Okay.
She might say that we don't need to have a special motion for this, but she might say that we do, so. we'll
Depends where the
follow-
money's coming from. If it's coming out of our budget,
We'll follow Carrie's lead.
yeah.
Okay.
But if it comes out of any fund balance,
Okay.
that definitely would be off. But I'm not saying that the board is gonna stiff you guys and say, we're
No,
short.
I still want
Yeah.
to get it fixed.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so that's the panel, so that's like 22,000. The door openers, that was covered, correct?
We didn't have funds in that either, so.
That was the locks. we
Oh,
had.
but it was the locks, but the good news is, we do have some money left over in door replacements.
Mhm.
So we can use some of that to cover the door replacement and the actuator replacement. And hopefully the rest of that will, take care of our, caulking. That
Okay,
higher
what is
ground
the
at
door opener estimated to cost? You had said door opener,
1,500,
1,500?
It wasn't long.
under 2,000, I'll say that.
Okay, and we have money left, you said, which can be utilized.
Yeah, we'll
for
use that.
Okay.
According to what Jay left me as he left. Now, I'll also have to talk to Carrie about that and make sure that that's accurate.
Okay. Okay, that's part of your report, then that was the staff reports. I did not see the staff reports, I didn't know they.
I sent them out late.
Yeah, have they been reviewed, or?
No.
Yeah,
I didn't get a
But
chance.
it
Okay.
came late. I was fortunate that I actually could look at it at that time.
okay, what we will do in the future, I think if it comes out that late, we're gonna have to start talking about that at the next meeting, because people don't always have the opportunity to
Yeah.
see that. All right, building documentation. Now, I don't know, was that in regards to the task force on what we?
Yeah, so,
Okay,
and I think we need to just have a serious heart-to-heart with the mayor or common council and say, hey, if we're gonna have these building needs come up, we need to either have the money in our budget to do it, or we need to have the CIP planned out to do it. We can't keep footing the bill out of
funds.
other funds, for indefinitely, and I think we're setting ourselves up for that if we continue that.
Do you
direction.
think we should, you have sent me quite a bit of documentation on elevator, HVAC, all of that. Do you think, and you had said you need to organize it, you said,
Yeah,
do you think you should organize that in such a way that it's a document saying that these are the needs, or these are our needs that are gonna be coming up because we are having issues? We're having issues with the chiller, we're having issues like this, and that can be something we present, and I will be more than willing to go on. And Brett, you're invited, or Tim, to go and talk to the new city administrator when they come on, or even the common council, to put together what we see as a need. And I mean, you walk in this building, the building's nice, you look up at the ceiling, you got water, you fix the things. I mean, this is a building and a service that this city utilizes to no end.
yep,
And, it's one of those things you had given me the estimate of like 75,000 for the parking lot. These are the face of us in front of the public. And I'll go back and I'll be nasty. The city repaved the city parking lot across from the police station. This is a public one that public uses, and maybe the public does use that also, but this little baby is pretty visible. And I have had people, and I know Katie, you had mentioned, it's terrible to walk on in some spots.
Yeah, it is.
So, I'm not being mean, I'm not getting nasty, I'm just saying, we need, you and I, Brett, if you want to be, we need to get to the new administrator and the common council and say, you've got a gem in this library, and if you want to keep it going, you better provide us funding. And if you don't, maybe we should go out to the public and say, please contact your common council people and tell them we want to keep our library looking pristine. I mean, the Riverwalk is great. They did a wonderful job on the Riverwalk. That's to bring people in. This is for our citizens.
It also brings a lot of people in.
It does. And our programs and stuff.
Yeah. So half of our users are from outside of West Bend,
Yeah, and they see it.
and they see it. And this is an attraction to downtown West Bend.
And that's something, Brad, you keep the statistics of how many people come in and things like that. We could, I know a few years ago, we ran statistics on how many library card holders are in each aldermanic against the registered voters. And it was pretty eye-opening. We have more library card holders in some districts, I think, than registered voters. Of course, you have children.
Yeah, I would say.
You have children, but it's pretty eye-opening when you see something like that. Okay, so that's the building documentation. I want to talk, probably in the building perspective here, about the task force we had talked about with moving different parts of the library and stuff like that, or research. At this point, my personal belief is, with all of the potential building things we are having, and issues with things possibly with air conditioning and this, that takes a back seat at this time. We don't really have the funds to do all of this, and you really need to look at what is most important, and I'm sure in the summer you guys want air conditioning.
We do want air conditioning in the summer. My office is 88 degrees
Yeah,
last week, so.
And I understand there are some concerns about where things are located, but maybe what this will allow us to do is look at the issues we've got, and along with that, but not to be done at the same time, the staff could be looking at what they would like to see in the future. And that may be something that, once we have replacement of some of the major facility issues or building issues, air conditioning, HVAC. You said elevators also.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Any comments, questions for Steve regarding this? If not, we'll move on. Library Director's Report. Couple of things that I would like to bring up, and they are in relation to the leadership, the leadership documentation that you sent out. One of the first ones was on the April 24th leadership. It talked about turning over the keys for the lower level rec room. I have a concern about that because we, the board, signed an agreement with Parks and Rec, and it was this board that did that, regarding how that facility was used. Could you further explain what's going on here to us?
Sure. So the Parks and Rec have a number of keys for their instructors to use that space downstairs. This is just a simple, we're not going to have our staff hand out keys that sometimes don't come back to us and keep track of their stuff, because they often lose keys. So that's all this is really.
Okay.
We're not going to be managing their key system, and
But we still have the same access and things to those
it's
rooms.
our key system, so we still have access.
I'm talking about the rooms, so we still can use those rooms, and
Hypothetically, we could use those rooms.
but we don't.
We don't use those rooms because the rec department uses those rooms in the evenings. We don't have any need for those rooms during the daytime. And because we have the library, we do all of our programs in the library during the daytime. If we were to need a room for the evening, we wouldn't be able to use it anyway. We've tried to do some programming in there, and oftentimes it's competing with or conflicting with what the parks or the
Do
rec
they
department
have
has.
programs scheduled every night?
Depending on the season, it could be every night. So, it does limit us.
So basically what that was referred to was more or less the keys process.
Yep.
I am concerned, and this is just me, I was involved in this. Half of that money for that room came out of this board's funds.
Yep.
And I don't feel that we're getting anything back for it, I guess that's it.
That's correct.
I do not know how well, I have some ideas, but I will not express them now, because they probably.
Well, we could say that there is a potential that the recreation programs going downstairs do bring people to the library. There are some people that go to recreation programs downstairs, and some people come upstairs and use the library while their kids are in the programs. I don't know how many that is. We could look at some of the door counts and see if there's a change during those recreation programs. That, on the flip side of that, the recreation programs use parking spots that our patrons would typically use, causing them to decide not to come to the library because there's not the amount of parking that they prefer. Either way, we have the memorandum of understanding was approved, and we don't have a whole lot.
Do we pay for all the electricity and the plumbing and the cleaning and all of that? Because maybe
So that's
some of that.
laid out in the memorandum. So the janitorial services and ice removal. So the Parks Department does our snow removal around the perimeter of the library. I don't know if that's changed since they put the LRC in any way. I think that's what they always did, is they took care of the perimeter of the building.
Correct.
Okay.
They clear out the approaches during their business hours. So if we're open till 9 o'clock and they're done at 4 o'clock and the storm's going till 9 o'clock, it's after 4 o'clock, it's ours to take care of. That's how this is written.
But I thought it was written that we would be utilizing it, that they would sign up for this, and then they had to be signed up like 3 months in advance, make their program scheduled, and then it's open to other use. Tim, you got anything on that? Because you worked on the MOU.
Yeah, I think we have rights to use it, or we work with them if we want to. I guess the question I have, and Steve and Brad, you guys would be the better to answer this, is yes, we have the right to use. Do we have a need to use? Because I haven't heard that yet, unless I'm missing something. Like, I don't know about the inner workings of the details. I just want to make sure that if we said we want to have an event down there, we have the right to use the space once in a while.
Yes.
Working in conjunction with them. They don't believe they get 100% dibs on it.
Well, so to answer that, it says the priority for use, the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry shall have the first priority for the use of the Library Recreation Center. The library shall have second priority for the use of the Library Recreation Center. If neither one is using it, the space can be offered for rent by the general public or other city departments. That part does not help us at all. It's just a mess. So we don't need it. I talked to Mike and Ryan, and I said, we don't want to rent it out to anybody. It's just too much for us to deal with, and they didn't want to rent it out to anybody, so we're not doing that. So we would follow the parks, but if they've got programs scheduled, we can't do anything.
Well, I
during
can
that time.
understand them having programs scheduled, but the programs are usually scheduled via months ahead of time.
Yep.
Dance programs and stuff like that. Okay. All right, well,
But I don't know that we would use it. The time that we could use it during the day, that also does change during the summer, so they use it more in the summer during the day as well. So it's very limiting for us,
okay.
since they're booked already.
I think at this time we'll table any issues. You've got the key issue where we're not gonna be dealing with them
Yep,
anymore,
we're
which
not
is
managing
fine.
the keys, that's the main problem.
Maybe in about, after the budget and stuff like that, we'll take a look at, we'll take a look at this again and might have to reopen the MOU and stuff like that. I'm actually thinking that we paid half of that. With my fund balances, we could buy them out and say adios. We could say in 4 years, we want you out of here. But again, if the library doesn't have a need for it, why do that?
I don't know how much I wanna risk putting materials and such down there, because if we're gonna have any water issues, it's gonna happen there first.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'll be easy. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, on the May 15th meeting in the miscellaneous, there was discussion, a write-up about information being put out to the community, and that you might be scaling back on this, which may mean scaling back on programs. The board would like a further explanation of what this is
Sure.
saying.
So, our programs our programs have gotten out of hand at times, where we've had too many things going on. I've looked at the statistics for programs to use of the library, and I don't see a correlation to, more books checked out just because we have more programs. So that's a twofold problem. One is, at our programs, we have to be promoting books.
Okay, that makes sense.
That would help potentially improve our circulation, and that's been a mandate that I've had for our team, is we need to make sure that we're talking about books in every program that we have. It's not just about having somebody talk and then they leave. We need to be displaying our books more. We need to have collections of titles that are of interest to our readers. We're working on that, but it hasn't. We don't know if that'll change things as far as that goes, but it's improving the quality of our programs is what the key is. Everywhere I've been, communications department, our new person there at the city. I was just at a book discussion over at the Tower Heritage Center. I've been talking about it for probably years now. I don't know if Brad can correct me if I'm wrong, but less is more sometimes. We have so much communication going out that, you know, when you put that much information out in the world, you become white noise, and people don't pay attention to what you're doing. So we have cut back on some of our communication to, we have our weekly list of activities going out, and we need to consider what we're doing for activities, making sure that we're not, my experience in West Bend is there's probably 6 things going on that I want to be part of in West Bend at a given time, and then there's probably 2 weeks that go by where there's nothing to do. So we need to plan that out better and have a better strategy for our program planning. That's the gist of it.
Does anyone have any questions for Steve on that?
No, it makes sense, because sometimes I see the newsletter and I see the booklet together, all the, it's like and except if people are just coming because I want to hear the little lecture or whatever, and then turn around and walk out the door, you should point them, we like this, it's over here in this area, it's a good idea, you know.
And I know we want to be more things. We want to be a community center, but unfortunately, we're still driven by our circulation, and that's what gives us our money, so.
Well, and more importantly, an educated populace is a valuable thing, and if reading stops, if reading drops off and all we're doing is listening to talking heads on TV, we're in a really bad place. So we need to make sure that people are learning and are using these resources and getting them educated, and that's what public libraries do, is it's the driver of self-education, I think.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Steve? If not, agenda items for consideration. We kind of put that in, I think, because we were looking for training and little things, but I think right now there's enough for us in the future on our board meetings to talk about building facilities, capital and stuff like that, than to look at what we need to train. So at this point, I think, we'll put that on the back burner. Anything else though anyone would like to think about putting on the agenda for discussion? If not, our next meeting is June 17th. The assigned tasks,
I don't think there are any.
Steve working on some paperwork to get us approval of the
you're good.
computers.
A proposal for
Brad?
the cost of the computers
Yeah.
and for the,
Yeah,
All the other stuff.
all the other-
all the other stuff. And in regards then to the task force that we were looking at regarding moving the building and stuff, we're gonna put that on hold for a while too, till some of these other issues.
Yeah.
Your staff is more than welcome to continue putting together their ideas on that. I don't wanna stop that, but it won't be something that we would be,
Well, we had planned for that to be a 3-year, up to 3 years we were gonna take to do that, and I would hope that we can get some ideas together yet, hopefully work that into our budget planning for the year, so that we can recruit the smart people to do the planning for that.
I just said, we should have asked that during the computer, are the prices of computer fluctuating week to week with all things that are going on with, because that,
I don't check them week to week,
and so,
so I can't speak to that.
Tim's really up on
Tim,
that.
yeah, Tim,
just, I'm curious, the price of the computers fluctuating dramatically?
Yeah, we are only because we do a lot of work in the summer. However, what you're also seeing, to Brad reference, I think you said you guys are a Dell shop down by you. Dell has done a rebranding, so they have new lines of stuff, which has also changed pricing, and not all of it is available at that point in time. A lot of it also has to do just with availability. If you find the right vendor who has it sitting on the shelf, they're willing to potentially sell cheaper than others. So it really is, sometimes it's a week to hold pricing, sometimes it's not. But it's just the fluctuation of the market. But this has been going on for years. COVID did the same thing. If you're buying computers around that time too, so.
Tim, I had heard that Microsoft 11 is requiring you to pay an annual fee. Is that true?
Office.
Maybe for consumers, we have a different licensing model, just like the
Okay.
library would have, where you're buying more of an institutional license or an educational type license and all of that. There's just
For
a
office.
piece where if you have an older hardware set, you cannot run the newest stuff and you're out of security. So I think that also with Brad and Steve updating those will take care of any kind of stuff that would not be secure for them moving forward.
Okay. All right, with that, it is 10 after 6, we are adjourned.